Hello, St. Luke's. Hope you're all doing well. We have a fun weekend ahead and fun week. It's Pride here in Atlanta. There are a couple of events that you all need to know about, and between us, we're going to all remember everything that's coming. The one thing I want everyone to remember, and you might not have seen this announcement yet, but Kate Kennedy, our very own, is being ordained a deacon this Saturday at 2 o'clock at the Cathedral of St. Philip. We are all invited, so please do plan to attend that. And there's a reception over at Lauren's at the Deanery right afterwards. So please do plan to come, plan to cheer for Kate, and plan to stay for some hospitality. But that's just one of many things happening this weekend. What else?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there is, just before that, this Thursday, 2 days from today, there is the Pride Eucharist, Integrity Pride Eucharist, that goes on every year the Thursday before Pride Sunday. And that's a diocesan-wide service. So folks from all across our diocese will be there. It'll be at All Saints Thursday night at 7 o'clock. And so please plan to attend. And it's always a great, lively service of celebration of all who we are in this that diocese.
And on Friday, we have the final of our First Friday food trucks.
Yep.
First Friday food trucks. The final one of the season before the weather turns chilly and it's not as fun to be outside. So please join us for that.
So Thursday evening, Friday evening, Saturday during the day, and then we get to Sunday. The Pride Parade / March comes right by this church. So you all probably know this better than I do. Peachtree Street is a little bit of an obstacle course by the afternoon. Is that right?
Yeah, by about noon.
So 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock are our services. So 8 o'clock, super safe, no problem at all. 9 o'clock, forum with Shaniqua Broken Leg, who is a member of the presiding bishop's staff on racial reconciliation, who's here as our preacher for Pride Sunday. So we're going to have a forum at 9 o'clock. And then at 10 o'clock, Shaniqua is our preacher. And then after 10 o'clock, we do hospitality out front for people in the parade, which is just fun for us. But if you come to that service, you've got to be intentional about where you park. Is that right?
Yes. So if you come to the 10 o'clock service and need to scoot out because you have afternoon plans, immediately following church, go ahead, find your car and scoot out, because close to noon, they will start to close all of the exits from Peachtree, and you won't be able to come out onto Peachtree Street. But otherwise, you could park in the back parking lot, and you would be very safe to be able to get out of here.
And also, if you left right after 10 o'clock, you can still...
You
Yeah.
should still be able to
Yeah.
get out.
It's be about 11:15, 11:20 or so, and that'll give time before they start closing up. It's about noon.
But you don't actually want to leave, because it's a
Oh, yeah.
really fantastic
That's right.
parade.
That's right.
It's a really wonderful time for us to be present as people of faith and celebrate the wonderful, beautiful diversity of all the folks who are created in God's image.
Yes.
It's a pretty fun Sunday for us.
It is.
At church as well. So please do join us. Again, we've got Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday covered. So please do have a look at the Shepherd's Notes so that you can be at everything you want to attend. And also, public transportation is a very good option for Sunday, but please do plan to join us for that as well. One of the great things about being an Episcopalian in this time is that our church has made decisions at the national level that mean that we are officially in line with church teaching when we are fully inclusive. That hasn't always been the case in my lifetime. I remember when trans inclusion passed. I remember when equal marriage passed for our church. It means that when we're raising our kids in this church, we can say we're a fully inclusive church, not just in our little parish, but across the board as a church. This is a high value for us. We are theologically trained around it. We know what that means and what that has to do with the Bible. And we understand ourselves made in the image of God fully as we are. I don't know the whole story in this church of the history of that journey. It's been a journey in every parish, but it's pretty exciting to be in this moment in history, I think, as an Episcopalian. So how are y'all thinking about that this year?
Go ahead.
Well, as a gay priest, it's wonderful for me to be at this place in my life, because growing up in the Baptist church, that was not an option for me. And I was out of the church for about 10 years because I had so much pain from the wounds of being told that I was not what God would want me to be. And even though personally I knew that I was okay with God, the church wasn't. And I felt that was an unhealthy place. And so I came out of the church, and then the Episcopal Church called me back into, not only into the church, but into my ministry, so I could have integrity with my ministry. And so I will be forever grateful to the Episcopal Church, church that I love, because of what it gave me and what I'm able to give others because of that. And so many others who've found their way into this church. It's wonderful that a lot of that pain has been washed because of the Episcopal Church and leading the light here.
It's a gift to me, raising my kids in the church, of that for them, it's a norm, right? In their lifetime, it has been normal. They have experienced family in so many different configurations and forms, and so there's not for them that kind of that gender normative, there's a mother and a father and 2 kids. It's family looks very different in different situations. And a fun story that I have is one of their best friends has a mother and a father, and the father does all the cooking and buys all the groceries and all of that sort of stuff. And then she had another really good friend who had 2 moms. And she came into the house one day and said, "Mama, who does all the cooking in their house? How are they getting fed?" Which was just, in my mind, fantastic that's where she was concerned about. Because in her family, it didn't look gender normative, and in that family, how are they eating? But like, that is just a perfect example of the gift of, for all of us, that we're truly inclusive, because our kids also feel the freedom to express who they are and discover who they are while they're growing up.
Yeah.
And for me, that is huge, that they have relationships with people that they can go and talk to about where they're questioning, how they're feeling. It's just, we have really created a space where it is, at least for my kids, they feel safe to be who they are.
Yeah. And the gift of time.
Right?
I'll be speaking at Ebenezer Baptist Church tomorrow night. It's a Zoom presentation on this very topic. And it's LGBT in the black churches. And there are some cultural pieces that really complicate this. And in many cases, there has not been the openness and the acceptance. And so there's still a struggle there. So I'm grateful that I have an opportunity and that Ebenezer is having this conversation tomorrow night.
I remember when I was first ordained in 2000, being in a church in Los Angeles, where it just seemed it was in the middle of all the controversies around this. And I remember preaching and feeling very self-conscious as a preacher in talking about inclusion of trans people, of LGBT people, despite who I am. It just felt like a thing to say it in a pulpit. And I remember second-guessing myself and doing it. I was young enough to not know how to not do the thing I thought I should do. And now, 10 years later, 15 years later, 20 years later, noticing how many gay kids have come out of that community. So they were 5 and 6 and 7, and their church community wasn't yet sure where it stood and was fighting about it, but what they heard from that pulpit was full inclusion. So inclusion projects into the future, and so I also feel like as pleased, and I think we should be, with our church having done the hard work to include. There's a future that we can't see yet, that we need to speak into. It's always a challenge for us.
Yeah.